Hello, everyone. Today I'm introducing my dear friend and partner of Farmsent in Colombia, the land of coffee. John, please introduce yourself.
Hello, Shusti, and hello, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. So, my name is John Cito. Uh, I'm from Colombia, as you just said, the land of coffee. I'm actually from a family of coffee growers, and I'm really happy to be here, to be part of this family, to be part of this fantastic team, of this amazing project.
Not many of you know that the guy who is on the video of Farmsent in New York, that is John, actually. John, tell me about that.
Well, yeah, that's a funny story. Actually, I was in New York last year, and I had a couple of friends that were displaying some advertising on the billboards that are in Times Square. So since I was there, I was like, guys, we are doing a campaign with our team for Farmsent, in which we are stating that no farmers, no food, so that we can claim the importance of the farming people, of the farming industry, of farmers themselves, who are the ones that keep Metropolis, keep the rest of us, uh, let's call it fed, because they are the ones who feed us. So I was like, we need to be there. We need to shout to the world what we're doing, and that farmers are a crucial backbone of actually the society. So I actually went to it, and just it was funny because I just talked to the team. Team, I'll be here. I think it was a Wednesday, and I was leaving New York on Friday or Saturday. It was something like that. So I was like, we need something quick so that we can display in here. And then the team, as I said, a fantastic team, with a quick reaction. We prepared everything, had everything settled, and we had the advertising, and I had the talking there. And I was presenting Farmsent to a broad, uh, actually to a broad audience in Broadway, because that's the street where Times Square crosses the billboards. That's Broadway. So I was really happy we actually got the chance to do it.
Um, I don't know if you guys believe in manifestation, and we had a very interesting talk, John and I. And I always believe that there are secret players inside the team that actually manifest beautiful things. So when you guys talk about giving credit to me or Salah for many things, don't forget that a lot of our team members are actually secretly manifesting where we are going towards, right? And there is an interesting story, but I don't want to give any spoiler. I would just raise that story to John, remind, and so he can take it forward. John, please tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's actually well, it I read um somewhere that it's tricky to plan ahead. When you make plans ahead, so many things change, in the sense that, let's think of a ball in a pool, like billiard. Once the stick kicks the ball, it starts hitting so many of the other balls, and at the end, some of them might get into the holes, and the ones that you thought could be going to the holes don't go. So somehow that's how life is. But as you said, Shrusti, um, you have to somehow direct your mind, direct your focus into the things that you really want to be done, or where you should want to get. A few years back, maybe 5, 7 years back, I am the kind of person that writes statements. And well, this is something I'll share to the public. That one of the things that I was dreaming about was, when I was farms, visiting farms, I was like, why is it that there's no more digital penetration into the farming world? Why is it that the traceability systems of the farms are not in place? Because the world has to know that there are certain families, and I'll speak particularly in the industry of coffee. They have to put their coffee into a mule that goes into kind of a store place that they have close to their farms. There they have to wait for a transportation in an unpaved road that can take them to a town. And then from that town to the place where they are actually stored and sent to facilities in cities where they can be threshed, packed, and have them ready for export if that's the case. So when I was thinking about all of that, I was like, okay, I would dream about having a traceability system for all this so that both the farmers, the consumers, they can all be aware of what's going on in between, because it's a process. Like kind of write it down of okay, I would dream about having a traceability system, about having a digital farm. So that was years back. And at that time, farms did not even existed back then. And we were just in the origins of the project of the coffee brand that we had previously, that was Beanboat. And seeing that like nowadays, 2024, going back to those days, to those thoughts, to those aspirations, to those dreams, it's just as you said, Shrusti, it's just the manifestation on having something, somebody in the background that is like paying attention to all those claims, to all those thoughts, to all those manifestations, and taking notes so that happens somehow.
What John has written in that paper, I think it was close to 10 points. And luckily, I have got a copy of that. And he wrote it in Spanish, right? Um, and and he translated and sent to me. So basically, he wanted to learn coding.
Yeah.
He wanted to learn um, all the mechanism of export, traceability. Like he was wondering why traceability is not there for coffee farmers. He wanted to create a system which is um, efficient enough so that farmers can earn better. And he wrote it down. And 5 or 6 years after, not knowing that this not exists, we created most of the features in Farmsent.
Yeah.
So that's what we were talking.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that, John. John, for most of our viewers who are not aware that you coming from a farming background, would you like to let them know what is farming life in Colombia, the struggles, the advantages, if there are any, especially in coffee, which you have a lot of experience?
Okay, Shrusti, I would actually have in the talk a particular, I will express uh, my thanks, deep thanks, on behalf of the team to Hector. Hector is my uncle. He's a coffee grower, and I'll start the story by introducing him, uh, everybody about the existence of Hector, and by that I'll go to your answer. By that I'll get straight to your answer. So when
Let me just clap for Uncle Hector first. He's a
yeah,
hero. And if you see his creative in any of our packets, you know that how much we love him.
yeah. So I was struck by that because um I remember when we first shipped coffee from Colombia. It was like 2016 or 2017. I don't remember exactly the dates. We sent a small box with, I think, 12 or it wasn't even 20 kg of roasted coffee. And I remember the first person I asked for that help was Hector, my uncle, regarding that. And I remember out of his um, generosity, he was like, okay, let me have some special coffee so that you can have and you can ship out something that can last, roasted this way, do this, do that. And I'll start by saying that because I'm speaking about generosity here. I'm speaking about the person that represent the people that not having many, they just want to provide as much as possible. And
Yep.
that's why I want to give you that brief introduction, speaking about him, just that people understand what a farmer is, how the farming industry is. Particularly, I'll speak about coffee in Colombia. Most of the coffee growers in Colombia are small landowners, and that's beautiful. And that's beautiful in the sense that, well, I'll be wider in my explanation here.
Please go ahead.
Actually, in the coffee region of Colombia, where coffee is grown, is the area where the land is more democratically spread among many people. And coffee was a product that allowed that democratization of land. That is, that the small owners could be the owners of their own land. And I'll give that explanation because, as I said, most of the coffee growers in Colombia are small coffee growers that can provide up to max of 5 tons of coffee per year of,
Mhm.
throughout the entire year. And I'm speaking about thousands of families. And that is therefore millions of people who are that way. And I'm explaining that because it it okay, it's I'll speak about democratization because the quality of uh, let's say of life that democratization of land allowed in the coffee industry made it that they could be different from other regions of Colombia. Other regions that didn't have coffee in Colombia couldn't have those. I don't know the word in English, but I'll say it in Spanish. It's a
Please go
minifundio.
ahead.
It's a minifundio, which is like small farms, would be like the literal translations. So those small farms of small coffee growers represent the traditional farming family in Colombia. And that is a family of humble people, hardworking people who so many times struggle in the sense that their prices fluctuate a lot. It's people that, okay, I have this amount of trees. I'm expecting, if the weather is okay, that I'm going to have this yield, this production throughout the year. And I don't even know the pricing of that production. So I not even know my income this 2024, how this income would
I-
be.
If uncertainty is, if you need to give an example of uncertainty, that would be right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Imagine this. I mean, I'll ask the audience to actually position on the shoes of a farmer, to wear the shoes of a farmer for this 2024. Okay, you're having an amount of trees due to climate uncertainties. You don't know exactly how much yield, how much production you will have throughout 2024. So you don't know how
Absolutely.
much quantity of product you will have. And on top of
Absolutely.
that, you're uncovered for the price fluctuations. If you're growing, let's say, coffee or cocoa or sugar or any other produce, you as of January of 2024, don't know what the pricing would be in September. Actually, I'm speaking about coffee in
So,
Colombia.
so basically, you don't know the price. You don't have enough capital to deploy. Okay.
Correct.
And when you get the yield, you are in hurry because you don't know what will happen to the price next month. So you
Correct.
end up selling it to people, whatever price they ask. Okay.
Yes.
And then there is no modern facility of trade financing, crop insurance to give you any cushion, right?
Absolutely.
So combine all these. That's the life of farmers John is talking about in Colombia, whether it is coffee, cardamom, or sugar, or various things he was mentioning.
Absolutely. And
Now,
Shrusti, you
so
go
yeah, go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Okay, you mentioned something really important. You, s- I was just speaking about the income side, which is affected by quantity and pricing of that quantity that the farmer would be selling. But I wasn't mentioning the other side of the story. I wasn't mentioning that in order to have a harvest in 2024, I needed fertilizers in 2023. I needed to
Absolutely.
pay for labor, for people who put those fertilizers on the field throughout 2024. I need to feed myself and my family. I need to send my children to school. I need to pay for the food my children eat. I need to pay for the transportation. So imagine that. And I'll mention something else. I'll mention something else. For example, climate uncertainty. Climate uncertainty. For some areas of the world, rain is a blessing, right? Rain is a blessing.
Absolutely.
But if you ask a farmer in Colombia about rain throughout 2022 and the beginnings of 2023, and you mention the word rain for a farmer, that would imply, I mean, I will express the head of a farmer if you say rain. They would do like a
Why is that? Why is that? Explain that. Yeah, I know that you have done a couple of times. So explain that for our viewers.
absolute. Okay. Let me go ahead. We are in a tropical country. Usually, tropical countries have rain. Let's say the amount of rain that falls in tropical countries is way higher than in subtropical areas or areas far from the equator, right? So, what happens in a country like Colombia, which is full of mountains, if you have mountains and you have a lot of rain, the immediate uh, consequence of having a lot of rain, it's landslides. Landslides is something that affects lots of farmers here. Landslide means your road is closed. So you're having, it's difficult for you to get access to those fertilizers because you need transportation to get them into your farm. But the access to your farm is blocked. And not only that, I'll explain to you something else.
And also probably reaching to your farm is difficult, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's more difficult, and on top of that, excess of rain causes. Okay, I'll have an agricultural explanation so that the audience understand the consequences of rain. When there is a lot of, for a coffee tree to produce its cherries, the first stage of that cherry is a blossom. It's a flower. Okay, that flower then gets transformed into a coffee cherry. So farmer needs lots of flowers so that they know they will have lots of cherries and therefore big quantity on their harvest. What happens when it rains a lot is that the plant says, the tree, coffee tree, thinks, okay, there is a lot of rain. Uh, right now, I'll accumulate that rain I'm not be focusing on reproducing myself. So I won't produce as many flowers as I usually do. So what that means is that the coffee harvest last year and the previous year was really low due to this amount of excess water. Actually, when there are dry seasons, the coffee tree thinks like this. Okay, so I have a hydric stress. There's a lack of water, little water. So I'll focus on my reproduction right now. I don't have any certainty of how the future would be. So I'll have my babies right now. I'll have my cherries blooming. And therefore, the production of coffee would be higher. So that's what I wanted to explain with rain, the consequences of it. So it creates a lot of logistical difficulties for coffee growers in particular and the farming sector. Lots of logistical difficulties, and their production also diminishes. Also diminishes. So it's that's why when I did like this, when you speak about rain with a coffee farmer, uh, I wanted you to understand why it is that is the face of a coffee farmer when we speak about rain.
Mm. No, also, thank you for giving that insight. What the farmers are going through because they have to counter, lack of capital. They have to counter um, changes in the weather and climatic conditions. They have to counter finance. You know, they have to look at trade financing and supply chain difficulties. They need to. They are just going through so much. So now, although we have just tried to create farm-centered ecosystem, but what are the things, John, you see from a farmer perspective? What kind of value farm-centered is going to add immediately and in the midterm or probably in the long term, so that the farmer's situation, which is getting worse day by day, can be actually improved?
Okay. Um, I'll I'll be wide here as well in my explanation. And one of the things critical that I see here is the income of the farmer and the certainty on their income. Somehow we're contributing into linking those farmers directly to consumers that actually um, get them. Remember the explanation that we were giving before, that there's a lot of
Mm.
uncertainty on the income side. So we are
Yes.
solving that uncertainty by linking them directly and arranging a set of pricing that we will go into that detail later. But I'll
Also,
explain.
also we have a fair future contract, which is something we will talk about it, but that
Correct.
actually protects the farmer from the price fluctuation. Okay,
But
adding bit of certainty. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
but I'll explain into and I'll go into another problem before we go into it. So
Yes.
the difficulties in the farming sector are causing a lot of migration from those farming from those farming sites into cities. And the biggest concern, humanity is not concerned about that. It's not a problem that it's widely spoken. Newer generations of farmers are getting scarce, are getting scarce. And that is, for example, the average age of a farmer in Colombia might be now close to 60 years. So
Mm.
it's that. Like when you go to a farm, you will see two, three people who are in their. I mean, it's funny because they are old. They have a greater physical capacity than most of their people that are in their 20s or 30s, due to the like kind of
Because they work continuously. Yeah.
exactly, they work continuously and are. like vigorous on their type of work that they do, so that help them keep health in good condition. So that's a huge concern. That's a huge concern
Well,
because
why do you think? Why do you think this is this way? Because what I observed in Indonesia, why farmers are leaving farming, because farming is no more lucrative. It doesn't earn, and the cities give them opportunity to earn. So the newer generation is moving to the cities to earn their livelihood rather than being stuck, which is what they feel in the farm. Is it the same case in Colombia?
yes, it's the same case. So people remember the problems that we spoke before about the uncertainties of the income, the yield, the amount of production that they have. So imagine you're a teenager, that you're in your uh, 15, 16. It's a moment in which you're thinking about your future, about how your life would be, your projects, what you have ahead, right? Whether you'll go to university, what would you study, what's your life project at that moment. And you're the son of a farmer who's struggling with capital, a farmer who's struggling with uncertainty in their income, a farmer who's struggling with logistics, a farmer who's struggling with climate change, and you're the son of a farmer. And you're seeing the internet, you're seeing in social media that there's a lot more in the outside world to offer. You see that there's a job opportunity increasing in the cities. So, what would be your perspective? You would think, okay, I have option A, I'll be like my father, I stay in the farm, I deal with lots of uncertainties, or I go to the city and I get a job, I look for a more comfortable lifestyle. And that's what
Absolutely.
the younger
It's
generations
a
are.
natural decision they would take, because when you think that there is a better world outside your perimeter, obviously you would like to jump in there, right? And it's not their fault that we have created that situation, or the combination of factors, which is financial and climate change, and all these factors have created this situation, right? So why we are trying to tell you this is basically how we can bring systems which eases these, so that farming becomes more lucrative. So we can invite this newer generation, come and do farming. Why? Because you can earn livelihood here, right? For that to happen, we need to fix access to capital. We need to fix supply chain, which is really broken, that they are not earning. We need to counter this uncertainty, which is what John is talking about, whether it is climate change in the long term, or whether it is access to capital, supply chain, and all other things, factors, right? Um, and most importantly, in the short run, to give them a better price for their produce, right? If we can do that, we can bring certainty, assurance, and that will at least calm the guys who are already in farming sector, and would probably encourage the newer generation for the years to come.
Correct. Correct. And
Now, John is actually working on ground. So he has got access to a lot of data and a lot of people actually who are doing coffee farming and various other farms, right? John, um, we spoke a lot about how to improve a farmer's life. You got to pick one big, your favorite advantage of Farmsent ecosystem. Okay. And I'll give you options, right? Whether this is the trade, where farmer can earn more, or by the tokenization, where we can bring access to capital, or the traceability or the digital passport. Um, if you have to pick up one, okay,
oh,
which one would you pick and why?
that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. Actually, uh, oof, that's a tricky one. I'll go to the manifestation. I'll go to the manifestation. And
Yes.
based on that, I will select my pick. And I'll go with the traceability because I think the traceability, well, but everything helps. But somehow the traceability would help the consumer about the awareness of so many things the consumer is not aware. And I think the transformation of the industry starts by the consumer being aware, and not only being aware, by that awareness becoming part of the solution to a problem that is tangible, and people wouldn't feel it if they are not part of it. And I'll go into an explanation. I will make a comparison for the people to understand. So, uh, most of the world, when people had a flu, they didn't use a mask, right?
Mhm.
What needed to happen for people to be aware? A pandemic. So everybody needed to be indoors. Nobody goes out. Lots of uh, quarantine, cuarentena, the word that
Yeah.
quarantine,
Yeah.
right?
Quarantine.
Quarantine,
Yeah. Quarantine.
a quarantine. So I'm really sure we're speaking about lots of problems that somehow will diminish or will affect the food supply worldwide. So it's like, okay, it's happening, but it's not hitting us at the moment. So we are not
Mhm.
caring about it right now. Somehow there will be
Mhm.
a solution. So what we are doing with this traceability system, particularly if that's my pick, it's explaining to those to consumers, hey, there is a farmer who is putting these inputs into the production. Those production go and travel this way. They go through this. The farm puts these inputs into the food you're eating, and this is what you get. This farm gets affected by this climate condition. Climate is affected by the CO2 of the car emissions that you drive. So you're also part of the problem. So we don't need a
Absolutely.
food shortage in order for you to realize that, okay, I need to be aware of this. And pricing has to be accommodated in order to understand those problems and those situations and prevent this pandemic from exploding. So somehow that's what I make the comparison. So somehow we, by creating this ecosystem, creating a traceability system, by having these consumers aware of all of this, we're having the masks on before the pandemic spreads. And that's the comparison that I want to give. Uh,
I'm glad that you picked this, John, because, I keep saying if we have to tomorrow walk into a supermarket to buy a product, and if we see a brand like, say, Starbucks, right, versus a sack of coffee, most likely we are going to pick up Starbucks.
yeah,
Reason, we do not want to do research. We want or we expect that the brand has already done the research for us, right? By adding a traceability system, or which we call the product passport, DEPS, decentralized product passport, that is putting farmers' produce at par with the providers like and suppliers like stuff. So the consumer is going to ask question how the produce was grown, what was the condition, how it was stored, how it was transported, how it was looked after, and is not going to hide behind the fact that the brands have looked after this. It's going to ask direct question. And our traceability system, the DEPS, is going to let a consumer scan a QR code and find information from the soil to fork, what has happened to that produce. And that's what John was talking.
Correct. Correct. And that basically was explaining raises awareness of the whole situation. And we are going deeper into it by uh, remember the manifestation that I kind of mentioned, digital farm.
Yes,
Somehow we need to get the people to be, uh, people love the digital world nowadays. People spend a
yes,
lot of their time on digital devices, whether a smartphone, whether a laptop. Actually, the TV, it's also a digital device that people use on Netflix, on so many. So if somehow we have the farm where it's actually, I mean, people are not aware of one of the most important things that they uh, get interaction with: food. It's the only product that actually they put inside their bodies. When you get a
absolutely.
when you get clothing, you get a, I mean, I mean, you get concerned about, okay, what it's made, the type of fabric it has, whether it's cotton or whether it's a synthetic fabric. And people don't pay as much attention to what they are eating, to what they're
It's so strange, right? It's so strange, right? The awareness of what you're consuming, although it is getting better. Like our generation was more little bit casual, but our next generation have started picking things and started picking good habits of really knowing their food. So I must give that as well.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. We also have to recognize that there have been improvements about that. But at the same time, I see that there's a great opportunity into having, okay, it's also us as entrepreneurs, we're lacking the actually either the capacity or the ability to actually understand those situations. Okay, we have to be part of the solution. How can we bring this farming ecosystem digitally to these newer generations? And that is where
Absolutely.
Farmsent comes in, and that is where we just want to be that tool that those consumer that people use in order to, the same way they use digital media and their digital devices, to their food, to actually, I would say, one of the top 10 most important things that you buy on a, like, yearly like, on your budget. I would say food should be a top priority, since it's, along with sleep and exercise, what makes you have a healthy life.
This is actually one of the most important thing that consumer is slowly becoming aware, and now the challenge is actually giving them that information. So what we are working with Farmsent is actually look at soil sensors, for example, right? What kind of things goes into soil? What kind of fertilizers are being used? What kind of storage facility we are using? Whether we kept it in an optimum temperature or not? All those kind of gadgets or sensors which we are going to use will catch information from the sensors and will be attached to this product first. So, like if I explain simply, like us, when we travel, we need to know who is traveling, what is his identity, right? And then where he is traveling. Similarly, we believe that a product need to have a passport. What is that product? What is the specification of the product? How far it has gone in the journey before it reached my plate, right? And this to a digitally aware consumer with a tap of a phone or a QR code, right? If we can provide, and that will make a better world, better for the farmer because the value of the product increases in that indirectly, and better for the consumer because they are aware of the product and what they're putting in their body. Correct?
Absolutely. There is a huge, I mean, there's a lot to be done. For example, recently, one of the things that I actually liked is that in certain countries particularly the European Union countries, are actually going one step forward into the requirements that they will have in the coming years for the sourcing of their products. And they are adding some certifications that require that the geolocation of the product can be actually be traced to places that were not tropical forests like a few years back. And that's
Yes.
an amazing thing. And I'll
Yeah.
explain to you why. Uh, Tropical countries, I mean, we are displayed in movies, in the media with lots of jungles. And indeed, we have lots of jungles. We have lots of virgin ecosystems. Since the agricultural frontier, it's getting actually more limited. There are actually people who are getting into those frontiers by getting into those virgin lands. Happens with that is that when you get into those virgin lands, basically it's a replacement of an ecosystem. An ecosystem is taken out in order to grow a production. That's actually super bad for the environment, for the diversity of the ecosystem. So if somehow there is a solution for that, I mean, with satellite information that nowadays comes, and governments are putting an eye on actually let's have products that we can actually be sure are not grown in those places, and we can differentiate a pricing for that. That's awesome, and those are steps in which we're using all the digital array of assets that we have in today's world to actually contribute to the real humanity problems of the 21st century.
Yeah. The other day we were having a partnership talk with a satellite company, right, to
Yeah.
get hyperspectral images to analyze, and which, by the way, is going to be part of DEPS, our traceability system, and the variety of data which can be procured. And we just need to create a habit among consumers to test what they are putting in their body, and that is only possible if we start giving out that information. We know that we are in an era where certain self-interest groups, they are not trying. They are trying to actually stop this information um, to be acquired by the customer. Whereas the customer or consumer is getting more aware to consume this information. So we are in the other side. We want to give more information so that consumer can make an informed decision about the product they are consuming at the moment. At the same time, we are trying to increase the value of the product for the farmers. And I keep repeating this because Farmsent is working for the betterment of farmers. And we have identified that if we can keep the product at the par with the brand, then we will fetch a better rate for the farmer. That will actually snowball all the things John was talking about.
Correct. Correct. Actually, yes. As I said, it's somehow contributing to the challenges that we have in the 21st century. 21st century is just reaching its first quarter, the end of its like the first quarter, and we have, I mean, problems with climate change, and we need to, I mean, so many people speak about lots of things, but when you see the people who are taking action, it's limited. So by being part of that group of people who are taking action to solve humanity's problems of the 21st century, and at the same time contributing to the farming, let's say, community, it makes it incredibly meaningful. Makes it incredibly meaningful.
I must say that I'm incredibly proud of people like John, because we don't have many people who have hands-on experience with farming and have understanding of technology. Um, Very few people, and that is what actually makes our Farmsent ecosystem more interesting, because they not only provide us the data, the processes, what are the things going in farming, but also have the guts to actually the knowledge to correct us if certain things are going and not as per the plan, right? And so they're actually participating fully in our ecosystem, and that is what make Farmcenter a very unique composition of resources, right? Because we have more farmers in our team than we have more blockchain experts, right?
Yeah.
And so John is actually borderlining both. See, he understands technology, he understands farming, you know. So this is very crucial, and probably a few such resources we have in the team who understands both. Like for example, Sabdo in Indonesia understands both technology in blockchain and also farming, right? So um, thank you, John, first of all, for having this chat. I know that we will keep continuing this chat for a really long time and keep exploring ways to help farmers. But I must take this stage and appreciate what you are doing. And also, I'm very happy that you have chosen to stick to what you have tried always to manifest, and then help our team, help
Yes.
the farmers around you, especially people like Uncle Hector, and to understand the technology. We know that we will be struggling a bit in onboarding, which you are focusing in Colombia to make it smoother, and various challenges like regulatory framework, and how to talk to the regulators, how to set up the trade financing so that we can, you know, sell well outside, supply chain bottlenecks, how to sort them out, the flow of money, how we can pay the farmers at a faster pace than what we are doing today. All these things requires a lot of effort on the ground, and so I really appreciate what you are putting.
Trusty,
And
actually, the appreciation and the thanks, and I would go the other way. Actually, the one who's incredibly happy to be part of this, the one who's incredibly lucky, who actually wakes up and thanks God and the world, the universe, for being part of these initiatives, it's me. And I'm really happy to be surrounded by people like you, like Salah, like the rest of the team members. Everyone is putting a contribution. Like everyone is putting their piece of sand in the beach of this ecosystem. So actually, I'm the one who's super happy, who wants to have an effective contribution so that things actually happen. These manifestations that were somehow written on paper and get transformed realities in real life. So that's what it is all about. And actually, thank you. Thank you, Shosti, for uh, pushing things to the point they are at the moment right now. It's a matter of the whole team to continue pushing the things so that we can actually, our objective is that have an impactful project that impacts lives of consumers, farmers, and that solves the problems of the 21st century for humanity.
couldn't have put any better. Amazing. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. And we really loved chatting with you. And I look forward to many more. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shursti. I'd say bye to the audience as well.